A lot of developers underestimate the power of sound and what good music and good sound choices can do for your game. So by now you probably have a good idea of all the actions we're doing in the game, where it'll be throwing items or jumping or landing on the ground again. There's quite a few points in our game that could benefit from good sounds. So at this point you can either go to freesound.org or OpenGameArt or something similar and trying to find some good sounds and good music for the game, or you can go into the completed project and grab the sounds and music that I've used. These choices were reasonably quick choices, so I can't guarantee that they will give the best experience, but it definitely does liven the game up a lot more. So to start with, let's add our background music that's going to play for the entire duration of the game. Rather than doing a lot of fancy code with it, I'm going to use a class in SKT Utilities called SKT Audio. So if I come back into our Introducer class, I can access the SKT Audio singleton by skaudio.sharedinstance.playBackgroundMusic and then passing it the MP3 or whichever format your music is in. Now we don't want the music to overpower the content, so I'm just going to adjust the volume of the music down slightly. So once again, SKT Audio, Shared Instance, Background Music Player, dot volume, and this will be equal to 0.4. So it'll be at 40% of its usual volume. Now if you build and run the application, the music is now playing throughout the app. I can change scenes, I can start a game, and the music will continue playing, and when the music reaches the end, it will then repeat. Okay, so how do you now play sounds within the application in response to something? So if a button is pressed or the character jumps. Well, this is actually pretty easy. We can use a SK action. So if I come into my main menu now and come into the action for one of the buttons, so when it is pressed, I can go self, run action, SK action, play sound file named, and then pass it the name of the file and say wait for completion false. Now when I build and run the application and come to the enter button, it will make a sound when I click it. Okay, now let's have a look at this title here. When it reaches the bottom point, I want it to make a sound as if it has landed on a surface. So we can come into our title action here and change it to a SK action sequence so that I can place these actions sequentially. So first it will move to that position and then it will play this sound file. Build and run the application. And there you go. Okay, now I'm just going to go through my character select screen and level select screen and place these sounds in appropriate places. Okay, now that we're up to the game scene, there's a few other things we have to consider. On our menus, it doesn't matter if there's a slight pause of half a second or something when you press a button. However, in the game, if you were to hit the throw button and the entire game pauses for half a second, then that's a bit of a problem. So we want to preload these sounds. If you preload the sounds, then it will not pause the game on the first time that it is run. So up in our instance variables, we're just going to add some sounds. Then you can come through the application and place them at the appropriate places where you want it to run. This also looks a lot neater because you just have to have self, run action, and then pass it the action from your instance variables. Now the sounds that react to the player I'm doing them separately inside the player itself. Aside from just good design, this is also a good place to put it in case you want to pass in sounds from your P list. For example, we have both a male and female ninja. So if we are getting them to talk or make any sounds, then it doesn't quite work. We want a way for them to have their own individual sounds. Okay, so down in our build sprite, we're now going to assign those SK actions to those sounds. Now in your update method, we're just going to run these sounds at the appropriate place. And notice that I'm running these on the parent. That's because if I run it on the entity itself, it will be silent. Okay, so if you come through and add all those in the appropriate places, and then go build and run, now the game has all the right sound effects. And we're now really close to finishing this game. In the next lesson, we look at jazzing up the text a little bit using a program called Glyph Designer.